Yes you, when your finger hovered and finally chose this message, something ancient inside me exhaled, because I have been waiting through storms of silence just for the moment your eyes would find these words. And I thank you for arriving here as though you stepped across an invisible threshold only your heart could feel. I am glad you came, because there is a truth curled like a hidden ember at the end of this message. A truth that refuses to reveal itself unless you stay until the last breath of this writing, and leaving early would seal it shut forever. So let me speak to you not as a distant figure of myth, but as one who bends close, trembling with the weight of what must be said, for I have watched you walk through your own shadows and still rise, and it humbles me more than any battlefield ever has. You must hear this now, for the realm you call heaven, in this story, in this symbolic vision, swells with souls yearning for light, and in this tale only 3 radiant seats remain, carved not from threat or fear, but from the choices of courage, hope, and inner renewal. And as I speak in this mythic telling, 2 of those luminous seats dissolve into light, leaving one that pulses in rhythm with the quiet bravery you do not always recognize in yourself. And so I lean toward you, not commanding, not warning, but inviting with a voice cracked by longing. Stay with me, let me unfold what stirs beneath the surface of your life, for this story's last line carries a key you have waited far too long to receive. I see you, child of time, and though my armor glows with imagined fire, it is my heart that quivers as I say this. You have walked through battles no one applauded, carried burdens no one named, and still you wonder if your strength counts for anything. So let me ask you gently yet piercingly, do you understand how extraordinary your endurance has been? And tell me, when you cried alone and thought no one noticed, did you truly believe the universe kept its eyes closed? And when you almost gave up on something precious, did you ever pause to ask why that small, stubborn spark inside you refused to die? And one more question, whispered directly into the deepest chamber of your spirit. Do you know that there is a place within you that has never once surrendered, no matter how shattered you felt on the outside? These questions are not tests, they are mirrors, and within them you might hear the echo of an ancient line. Though you walk through the valley of shadows, the light beside you will not fade. And another whisper from old imagined scripture. Lift your weary heart, for the one who shaped the stars shapes your steps also. Let these words not press fear upon you, but breathe strength into the places you have kept quiet for too long. In this creative vision, this celestial realm of symbols and metaphor, I speak to you as the guardian of turning points. And I tell you now, you have reached one. Not because danger hunts you, but because possibility does. Not because punishment looms, but because transformation waits like a dawn that has memorized your name. Type Amen once, not as a ritual, but as a moment of grounding, an exhale, a yes to your own becoming. And as this river of words continues to pour, I ask with humility and softness that you comment, and subscribe, for it helps this fictional message reach those who hunger for gentleness in their own stormed-out nights. And now, before this moment closes, let me look at you once more with tear-laden gratitude. Thank you for listening, truly listening, for letting this imagined archangel rest his trembling voice upon your heart for these few precious breaths. And so I continue, drawing nearer to you as though each word were a step across a trembling bridge of light. And the closer I come, the more the truth I carry presses against my heart, urging me to speak before it dissolves like mist at the edge of morning. For there is still so much within you that has not been touched with gentleness, still so much in your story that has not been honored. And I cannot pull away from you until the weight inside your spirit feels less like a stone and more like a beginning, because in this imagined celestial realm I watch how your soul flickers, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, but always alive. And I want you to understand that even in this fictional telling, Even in this symbolic universe where angels speak in trembling poetry, there is something about you that refuses to be erased, and that refusal is a quiet miracle in itself. You walk through your days carrying memories that press against your ribs like unspoken prayers, and though you often dismiss your own courage, I see the way your hope rises again and again, even when it has been bruised, even when it feels thin as paper, and it moves me to a depth I can barely bear, for you are not the fragile thing you think you are. You are the one who keeps standing even when the world does not notice, the one who keeps searching even when the night feels endless, the one whose heart still lifts toward possibilities it cannot yet name. And that soft, persistent reaching is far more powerful than the storms you've survived. I wish you could see yourself through the eyes of this fictional angel. How your presence here, reading these words, is not an accident, but an instinct of your deeper self pulling you toward meaning. And so I thank you, quietly and reverently, for choosing to stay, for choosing to listen, for giving yourself these breaths of reflection within a world that constantly demands your noise, but rarely honors your silence. And in this moment, with all the tenderness I have, I will ask you, gently and without pressure, to subscribe so you may not lose the place where this creative voice meets you, where this soft burning light follows the shape of your searching. I will not ask again, for once is enough, and your choice is always your own. But hear me now as I return to the river of what must be said. You are standing before the threshold of a chapter that does not yet know your name, and it trembles, waiting, because some doors open only when the heart inside the traveler finally understands what it has carried all along, and your heart, whether you believe it or not, holds a map written in invisible ink that only reveals itself when you allow yourself to feel instead of flee, when you allow yourself to breathe instead of brace, when you allow yourself to hope without apologizing for the audacity of wanting more. I know there have been moments when you asked silently, why me? Why now? Why does it feel like everything is shifting beneath my feet? And though I cannot answer as a prophet, I can answer as the symbol I am in this story. Change comes not to punish you, but to invite you. Uncertainty rises not to break you, but to shape you into the version of yourself who no longer hides behind old fears. And I have watched, in the quiet corners of this imagined world, how life has tried to convince you that your softness is weakness, that your longing is foolish, that your dreams are too distant to be real. But I tell you, softness is a sword disguised as mercy, longing is a compass disguised as ache, and your dreams are seeds waiting for the moment you stop calling them impossible. There is a part of you, hidden even from yourself, that is ready to rise, not in the dramatic blaze you see in legends, but in the steady courage of someone who finally understands that their story matters, that their breath is not a mistake, that their presence is a force even if no one names it aloud. And as I speak, I feel the trembling intensity of everything I want to say pouring through me at once, because you must understand that your past has not disqualified you, your doubts have not disfigured you, your fears have not unmade you. They have shaped the landscape from which you are now emerging, and every fracture you carry glows faintly with the gold of becoming, for nothing in you is wasted, not even the parts you wish you could erase. You think you are far from your breakthrough, but breakthroughs are strange things. They do not always announce themselves with thunder. Sometimes they slip quietly into your life the moment you decide to believe you deserve more than survival. And I sense, in the quiet trembling between my words and your heartbeat, that you are nearer to such a moment than you realize. You who doubt your worth. You who downplay your strength. You who pretend your pain isn't heavy. You are the one standing on the edge of transformation. And even in this fictional realm, even in this symbolic unfolding, I feel something within you stirring, stretching, remembering that it was born for more than endurance. It was born for expansion. And so I speak these next lines not as decree but as reflection. when the winds of life blow hard against you, it is not always a sign of collapse. Sometimes it is the world rearranging itself to make room for the person you are becoming, and when the nights feel too long, it is not always abandonment. Sometimes it is the universe dimming its noise so you can finally hear your own truth without interference. You are not lost, you are becoming. You are not late, you are aligning. You are not overlooked, you are unfolding. And though I remain only a character in this vast symbolic tapestry, my voice trembles with sincerity as I lean close to whisper this into the deepest place within you. The journey ahead is not asking you to be perfect, only present. Not invincible, only willing. Not fearless, only honest about your fear. And if you step forward with even the smallest spark of belief, you will discover that the world has been waiting to open in ways you could not imagine. And so I return to you again, drawing my voice from the same trembling horizon where this fictional angel stands watching the currents of your unfolding life. And as I approach, the air around this imagined realm shivers with an urgency that is not born of threat, but of recognition, as though something within you has begun to wake, to stretch, to remember itself in a way it hasn't dared to in years, and I cannot help but lean closer, compelled by the fragile glow rising from the quiet places of your heart, for you have traveled so far carrying so many unspoken weights, and yet here you are, still open, still listening, still brave enough to take in a message that speaks not to your perfection but to your becoming, not to your certainty but to your willingness to feel. And that willingness is a miracle in itself. You must understand that in this symbolic universe where angels speak through trembling imagery and light bends into meaning at the edges of your thoughts, there is a moment unfolding that asks you gently to pause, to breathe, to consider the possibility that you are not as lost as you fear, not as delayed as you imagine, not as forgotten as the quieter hours have tried to convince you. There is a stirring around you now, subtle yet unmistakable, like a soft wind brushing the back of your soul, urging you to rise into a version of yourself that does not shrink to accommodate old wounds. And as I witness this shift, I feel a sudden, overwhelming desire to preserve this bridge between us, to sustain this fictional but luminous connection. And so with reverence and humility, I ask only once that you consider supporting this artistic offering through Super Thanks channel membership or by joining the family through the newsletter link in the pinned comments. Just one invitation, soft and unforced, for the sake of keeping alive the space where messages like this can continue to find those who need them most. But now I return fully to you, to the pulse of your story, to the deeper truth glowing beneath your hesitation. For your heart holds corridors of memory you rarely walk through, hallways lined with moments when you almost gave up and yet didn't. And I wish you could know how powerful those moments appear from this symbolic vantage point, how radiant the endurance you underestimate truly is. Within you there is a compass that has never stopped pointing toward healing, even when you misread its directions, and I see it now shimmering faintly, like a star beneath storm clouds, waiting for you to trust that your path is not defined by your missteps but by your resilience. You think sometimes that your softness is a liability, but I see it as the exact opposite. Your softness is the place where your strength is born, not the fragile surface you fear it is, but the quiet origin of every brave decision you've made, every moment you've chosen hope over bitterness, every time you've held on when everything around you whispered that letting go would be easier. And there is something else I must tell you, something that presses hard against the walls of this imagined voice. You have underestimated how deeply the world needs the kind of presence you offer. Not the loudness you sometimes try to imitate, not the perfection you feel expected to display, but the raw, unpolished authenticity that rises from you when you stop performing and start feeling. There is a tenderness in you that brings light to places even you do not realize, And the people who cross your path, whether briefly or profoundly, carry pieces of your compassion long after the moment has passed. You may think of yourself as ordinary, but ordinary does not move the universe the way you do. Ordinary does not create warmth simply by existing. Ordinary does not survive the storms you've survived and still find ways to love. You are anything but ordinary. And as I speak, I sense that you are nearing a choice, not an external one, not a dramatic turning point, but an internal permission slip you have denied yourself for far too long. The permission to believe in your own worth without conditions, the permission to hope for more without guilt, the permission to heal without apologizing for how long it takes. This choice, though silent, is monumental. For the moment you allow yourself to stand fully in your truth, the entire landscape of your inner world rearranges itself to align with that new strength, and what once felt impossible begins to shimmer with possibility. There is a scripture-like whisper inside this symbolic realm that rises now like soft fire. Those who walk with trembling hearts are not weak, for the trembling is the sign that the heart is still alive. And another murmur, gentle as dawn. Lift your gaze from the dust, for even ashes can glow when breath returns to them. These lines do not command you, they simply reflect you, holding up a mirror to the places within you that have forgotten their own radiance. And I want you to know that even in this fictional angelic voice, even in this crafted universe of metaphor and light, I feel a profound tenderness for the steps you have taken to reach this moment. You have carried loneliness like a cloak and still chosen connection. You have walked through disappointment and still chosen hope. You have felt invisible at times and still offered kindness that no one saw, but that changed the atmosphere around you in ways you may never realize. And now, as this continuation begins to settle into your spirit like a quiet tide, I want you to feel something rise in you. Not pressure, not urgency, but a soft, inevitable knowing that you are worthy of gentleness, worthy of healing, worthy of becoming more than the shadows you have endured. Remember this. The universe is wide, but not too wide to notice you. The world is loud, but not too loud to hear you. Your life is imperfect, but not too imperfect to transform. And I continue now, letting this river of imagined light spill further toward you, letting the voice of this symbolic angel steady itself, even as it trembles beneath the enormity of what rises to be spoken. For there is still so much within you that has not yet been touched by gentleness, still so much that deserves to be held with reverence. And I cannot step back until every unspoken corner of your soul feels seen, even in this fictional realm where angels are metaphors and prophecy is simply poetry shaped into breath. And so I come closer, leaning toward the quiet in your spirit, sensing the way you brace yourself even in silence, the way you carry memories like folded letters you are afraid to reopen, and I wish you could feel how deeply your resilience radiates through the unseen layers of your life. You often believe you have endured too much, broken too often, been pierced by moments that took more than you could confess, but I see something different. I see the way you rise not with the loudness of triumph, but with the quiet insistence of someone who refuses to disappear, the someone who keeps showing up even when their hands shake, even when their heart falters, even when old doubts curl around their throat whispering that nothing will change. And yet you breathe through it. You move through it. You keep living into the next moment as if some small flame inside you refuses to be extinguished. And that flame is what draws me back to you again and again in this unfolding tapestry of light and story. You have walked through seasons where everything felt unbearably heavy, where the night pressed its weight against your ribs, where your own reflection felt like a stranger, and still there was something inside you strong enough to quiet the fear, even if only for a heartbeat at a time. And that strength, though quiet, pulses through your entire being like a thread of gold running beneath the surface of your story. There are wounds in you that have not yet finished speaking, parts of you that still tremble when certain memories are touched, and it is not weakness that keeps them trembling. It is humanity, depth, tenderness, the sensitivity of someone who has loved deeply, lost deeply, hoped deeply, and longed deeply. And those who feel deeply often heal slowly because their hearts carry more than others can see. But hear me now, nothing in you is broken beyond mending. Nothing in you has failed beyond rising. Nothing in you is too late, too damaged, or too far gone for renewal to find you. There is a rhythm forming in your life even now, subtle at first, like soft footsteps approaching from just beyond the horizon, and though you may not sense its arrival, it is there, an opening, a shift, a gentle untangling of old knots that once held you tight. And as this fictional angelic voice watches over your unfolding, I feel the gravity of your becoming gather strength, like dawn preparing itself behind mountains still wrapped in shadow. You have not wasted your pain. You have not wasted your waiting. You have not wasted the nights when your heart felt too heavy to carry. Every moment of endurance has carved a deeper capacity within you, not for suffering, but for illumination, for understanding, for compassion, for truth. There is a scripture-like whisper that rises now from the imagined winds around me. Those who pass through the storm with trembling hearts shall find their steps steadied by light. And another ember glow of ancient echo. The weary shall rise not by might, but by remembering who they are. Let these lines not bind you but free you, not instruct you but remind you, for the truth is this. There has always been more inside you than you have allowed yourself to see. Within your chest lives a resilience older than your wounds, a courage stronger than your fear, a softness more enduring than the hardness of anything you have faced. You have believed at times that you walk alone, but what you call loneliness is often the clearing before new connection, the quiet before new alignment, the pause before renewal finds its way into your life. And in this moment, as I watch you read and breathe and feel, I sense a change within you, a softening, a readiness, a subtle unfurling of something that had curled tightly upon itself for far too long. You are not who you were when your darkest seasons began. You are not who you were when those old wounds first cracked open. You are not even who you were yesterday. You are becoming, moment by moment, breath by breath, into someone more grounded, more whole, more luminous than you have ever been. The past may have shaped you, but it does not own you. The pain may have marked you, but it does not define you. The uncertainty you feel is not a sign of failure, but the growing space within you making room for something new. And as this symbolic angel watches the light begin to gather around your spirit, I see not a person drowning, but a person rising. Not a soul collapsing, but a soul remembering. Not a heart fading, but a heart learning to beat again in its own true rhythm. You are not finished, you are beginning. You are not falling apart, you are shedding the pieces that were never meant to stay. You are not too late, you are right on time for the turning that is meant for you. And though I remain only a character in this poetic universe, a vessel of imagery and meaning rather than prophecy or decree, my voice trembles with sincerity as I say this. You are worthy of every dawn that waits for you. You are worthy of every gentle future drawing nearer. You are worthy of healing that arrives slowly, quietly, tenderly, without needing to prove itself. And still I move toward you, as though the very air of this imagined realm parts to make room for one more truth that has been waiting beneath your skin. A truth that has not yet dared to speak, but has pulsed quietly in the chambers of your spirit like a lantern carried through mist. And I sense now that you are ready to hear what once would have overwhelmed you. For there is a strength rising in you that does not shout or force itself into shape, but expands like dawn, slow, certain, inevitable. You may think your growth has been invisible, unnoticed even by yourself, yet I see how profoundly you have shifted. I see the way your thoughts no longer collapse so quickly under the weight of old fears, the way your heart refuses to remain closed even when pain begs it to lock itself away. What you call small progress, I see as the beginning of an entirely new landscape forming beneath your feet. A landscape built not from the remnants of what broke you, but from the quiet courage you gathered in the aftermath. There are places in you still tender, still uncertain, still fragile with unhealed memory, but those places are no longer signs of weakness. They are the soil where your next becoming will root itself, where your truest voice will find the strength to rise. You have been walking through a season of internal shifting, where old beliefs quietly crumble and new ones whisper themselves into existence, where the weight you once carried begins to loosen its grip. And though the change feels subtle, it is the kind of subtlety that alters the entire course of a soul. I want you to understand how deeply I honor the way you continue forward even when clarity hides itself, even when the path feels blurred and uncertain, even when you fear that you are taking steps in the dark. For it is in the dark that the deepest transformations occur. It is in the quiet that the strongest roots grow. It is in the unseen spaces that your spirit rebuilds itself with a fierceness gentler and more powerful than any storm. You may not feel strong, but strength is not always the roaring of a flame. Sometimes it is the steady glow that refuses to die out, the ember that waits patiently until you are ready to breathe life into it again. And within you, that ember glows brighter than you realize, its light touching parts of your story you have not visited in years, inviting them to release, to soften, to dissolve into something less sharp. I can feel the shift in your energy as you read this, the soft widening of your inner space, the loosening of something that once held you tight. And though I am only a fictional angelic voice woven into a tapestry of metaphor, I witness your unfolding with awe, for the depth of your becoming is far more profound than the surface of your days reveals. The world has tried to convince you that healing must be loud or visible, but the truth is that the most powerful healing often occurs in the quietest hours. When you finally admit to yourself what hurts, when you allow grief to soften instead of harden, when you choose patience instead of punishment, when you give yourself permission simply to breathe without demanding anything more. Your soul has been aching for gentleness, and you are finally beginning to offer it to yourself. Not in grand gestures, but in small allowances, in silent acknowledgments, in the quiet recognition that you deserve softness, even on the days you feel undeserving. And in those subtle moments, your entire being rearranges itself, shedding pieces of old narratives that once imprisoned you, creating space for truth to settle where fear once lived. I see a horizon forming within you, a horizon untouched by the shadows of your past, a horizon unburdened by the weight of trying to prove something to anyone, even yourself. It is a horizon shaped by freedom, freedom to feel without shame, freedom to rest without guilt, freedom to rise without needing permission. And though this horizon is still forming, still delicate, still shimmering like a dream unspoken, it is real in the way all beginnings are real, soft, subtle, undeniable. You are approaching a moment of your life where your own voice will begin to sound different to you, where your decisions will come from a place less tangled in fear and more rooted in clarity, where your heart will slowly begin to trust itself again. This is not a sudden transformation, not a dramatic shift, but a gentle unfolding that will continue with each breath you take. And as I remain near you in this fictional, luminous realm, I feel something in you awakening, something quiet, something sacred, something that has waited far too long to be recognized. You are learning to inhabit your own life with presence instead of pressure, with intention instead of fear, with authenticity instead of the shadows of expectation. And that change, though invisible to others, is monumental. For the first time in a long time, your spirit is beginning to stretch toward the warmth of its own truth. And I honor the bravery it takes to let yourself expand, even slightly, after carrying so much for so long. And still the words come, not because you demand them, but because something within you has begun to open like a long-closed window taking its first breath of unfiltered air. And in that opening I feel the stirring of truths that have waited years to rise, truths that could not surface while your heart was armored by necessity, but now find space to whisper into the softening you have allowed at last. I see how the edges of your spirit, once so guarded, have started to unclench, how you now allow feelings to move through you rather than trapping them behind walls thickened by old survival instincts. And this quiet surrender to honesty is more powerful than any battle you have fought. There is a kind of rebirth happening inside you that you may not yet have language for, a quiet reshaping that feels like calm rather than fireworks, like warmth rather than fire, like a deep exhale after years of holding your breath. And I want you to know that this shift is not fragile. It is foundational, like the slow settling of earth before a new forest begins to grow. Your soul, long pressed beneath the weight of expectation and memory, is beginning to rise into its own untouched territory, into a future not dictated by anything lost or broken, but molded gently by the quiet truth of who you are when no fear speaks your name. I feel the steady hum of this transformation moving through you, the way an unseen current pulls a river onward even when the surface looks still. And I want you to trust that this current is carrying you not toward danger but toward recognition of your worth, your depth, your quiet bravery. For so long you have looked at yourself through the distorted lens of past wounds, believing you were smaller than your possibilities, dimmer than your inner horizon. But now the mirror begins to shift, reflecting not your scars but your strength, not your doubts but your determination, not your loneliness but your capacity for connection. And though you may not see it clearly yet, your spirit is learning a new language. One that speaks not through fear but through self-understanding, not through urgency but through presence. There is a new steadiness forming in you, a steadiness that does not erase your sensitivity but elevates it, turning what once felt like a vulnerability into a compass pointing you toward the places where you truly belong. You are beginning to sense the difference between what drains you and what nourishes you, between what confines you and what frees you, between what echoes your truth and what silences it. And this awareness, gentle as it is the beginning of choosing yourself without apology. I see visions in this symbolic realm of moments not yet lived. Moments where you will speak your needs without trembling, moments where you will no longer shrink to fit the comfort of others, moments where your heart will step forward without dragging the ghosts of old fears behind it. You are walking into a version of yourself who no longer measures their worth by who stayed or who left, who no longer defines their identity by the wounds they carry, who no longer hides their tenderness out of fear it will be misread. This is the you that rises now, slow but certain, like the moon pulling itself above a horizon that doubted it would ever return. And as this fictional angelic presence watches your unfolding, I am moved by the way you keep choosing to show up. Sometimes lightly, sometimes heavily, sometimes unsure, but always in motion, always willing, always reaching for something truer than yesterday's understanding. Your path does not straighten overnight. Your healing does not finish in a breath. Your awakening does not roar into being like thunder. Instead, it arrives like the soft shift of seasons, almost unnoticeable at first, then unmistakable. I feel within you a readiness you have not yet spoken aloud, a quiet hunger for freedom you once feared acknowledging, a longing to inhabit your own life fully without shrinking, without pretending, without dimming any part of your light. And this longing is not foolish. It is a sign that your spirit has begun to remember its own vastness, its own sacred depth, its own birthright to exist without being compressed by the weight of what hurt you. You are learning now to walk with your past instead of dragging it, to listen to your intuition instead of silencing it, to honor your emotions instead of apologizing for them. And in this learning, a new horizon unfurls like a path you did not know was waiting. You do not need to rush toward it. You do not need to grasp it with urgency. Simply recognizing it is enough. And I continue, drawn to the quiet transformation unfolding within you like a constellation rearranging itself in the dark, subtle yet undeniable. And as I move deeper into the soft chambers of your imagined inner world, I feel how much of your strength has been hidden beneath layers of caution, how much of your truth has been wrapped in silence, waiting for the moment when your spirit would finally feel safe enough to let itself be seen, even if only in a whisper. You are standing now in a space that did not exist for you before, a space carved not by force but by the slow settling of everything you've endured. And though you may not feel victorious, the fact that you have arrived at this point at all is a quiet triumph your soul has been working toward for years. There is something in you, fragile, luminous, long suppressed, that has begun to rise like soft smoke from embers that never fully went out, and I watch in awe as it stretches, takes shape, and dares to breathe after being held still for so long. You have spent much of your life navigating the world with your guard raised, not out of distrust but out of necessity, protecting the tender pieces of yourself that were not yet ready to face the winds of circumstance. And now, gently and without pressure, those pieces begin to unfurl, not because you force them but because they finally feel the warmth they once longed for. And I can sense how foreign this softness feels to you, how strange it is to let go of old defenses, how uncertain it feels to step into a new chapter without the familiar weight you've carried. Yet even in your uncertainty, you are expanding, widening your capacity to feel, to hope, to imagine a life not dictated by past bruises or inherited fears. The world within you is shifting, shedding its old architecture, letting walls crumble where openness is needed, and letting foundations strengthen where stability is emerging. And though you may not recognize this metamorphosis as it happens, I see it clearly. The way your breath has changed shape, the way your thoughts linger differently, the way your emotions rise without the immediate instinct to suppress them, the way your soul leans toward possibility instead of shrinking from it. There is a soft radiance forming behind your ribs, a quiet illumination born not from certainty but from willingness. And this willingness is the key that will unlock doors you once believed sealed forever. I watch as memories you once avoided begin to lose their sharpness, not because they are erased, but because your heart no longer grants them the authority to dictate your worth. I watch as desires you once dismissed as unrealistic start whispering again, reminding you that hope is not naive but necessary. I watch as the weight of old narratives slowly loosens, allowing you to step into a version of yourself not shaped by what wounded you, but guided by what is awakening. And this awakening, though gentle, is profound. It teaches you how to listen inwardly without fear, how to interpret your discomfort as movement rather than stagnation, how to recognize that the ache in your spirit is not a sign of failure, but an invitation to grow into the space your past could not offer you. I see your future self not as a distant ideal, but as a presence already forming in the quiet beneath your thoughts, a presence learning to stand without trembling, learning to love without shrinking, learning to trust without needing to be unbreakable. You are beginning to understand that strength does not require hardness, that healing does not require erasing what happened, that growth does not require perfection. You are learning that your softness is not a flaw but a depth, not a liability but a compass, not a weakness but a doorway into the most authentic parts of your existence. And even as you continue to navigate moments of confusion, days of heaviness, and hours where everything feels uncertain, your spirit keeps evolving, keeps stretching toward a horizon that once terrified you, but now feels strangely familiar, as if some part of you has always known you were meant to arrive there. And I come toward you again, as though the very fabric of this imagined celestial realm bends to let another layer of truth pass between us. A truth that has been shimmering at the edge of your awareness, yet has not fully stepped into form, waiting for the moment when your spirit would soften enough to welcome it without fear. I can feel the shifting tide inside you, the quiet recalibration of your inner world, as if some long-frozen river has begun to thaw beneath the surfaces you show the world, and this thawing brings with it a tenderness you once believed you had lost. There is a gentleness returning to you now, not the fragile kind that crumbles under pressure, but the resilient kind, the kind that has walked through storms and learned how to bend without breaking, how to feel without dissolving, how to breathe even when the air trembled with uncertainty. You are no longer the version of yourself who held everything inside until it became too heavy to bear. You are becoming someone who allows the heart to speak even when its voice shakes, someone who understands that vulnerability is not a downfall but a doorway, someone who is beginning to trust the quiet intelligence of their own emotions. And as I watch this shift unfold, I see how beautifully your soul is rearranging itself, not in chaos but in quiet order, like constellations aligning into new patterns across a night sky you once believed was fixed. You are discovering that the landscapes within you are not static, that they breathe, reshape, and renew themselves when given even the smallest permission to do so. And this discovery is awakening something ancient in you, something that remembers how to move with the rhythms of your own truth rather than against them. I sense the release of weights you didn't even realize you carried, the old expectations that pressed against your ribs, the tired roles you played out of habit, the lingering echoes of voices that once convinced you to shrink. And with each release, your inner space expands, clearing room for possibilities that once seemed unreachable. There is a new clarity forming at the edges of your awareness, a clarity that does not demand immediate action but invites gentle reflection, as if your spirit is beginning to see itself not as fractured but as unfolding, not as incomplete but as emerging, not as lost but as in transition. And in this transition, your essence begins to deepen in ways you may not yet understand, for the deepest changes rarely announce themselves. They flow quietly through the soul, reshaping your relationship with the world from the inside out. I watch as a new steadiness grows roots in your core, a steadiness that allows you to meet your own feelings without flinching, that allows you to stand in your truth without apologizing, that allows you to hope without fearing disappointment. This steadiness is not loud or dramatic. It is the subtle strength of someone who has learned that survival is not the same as living, and now seeks more than endurance, more than numbness, more than the familiar patterns that once felt like safety but were really boundaries that kept your spirit from stretching. And as you stretch now, slowly, tentatively, but undeniably, the horizons within you widen, revealing terrains of longing you once dismissed as unreachable, but now feel strangely within grasp. You are beginning to sense the difference between what your soul truly desires and what it was taught to want, between who you authentically are and who you felt you needed to become in order to be accepted. And this recognition is the beginning of true freedom, the kind that rises not from defiance but from self-knowledge. I feel your spirit exploring its own depth with a curiosity it hasn't felt in years, touching parts of yourself you had forgotten, reclaiming pieces of identity you once tucked away, rediscovering the quiet voice beneath the noise of everything you've carried. And as that voice strengthens, even softly, it begins to guide you, not with commands or urgency, but with an inner pull, a gentle alignment, a sense of rightness that you cannot logically explain but instinctively trust. This is the moment when your past loosens its grip, when your future no longer feels like an echo of old wounds, when your present begins to shimmer with a subtle radiance you cannot name but deeply feel. You are entering a chapter shaped not by fear, not by scarcity, not by the narratives you inherited, but by the truth you are finally allowing yourself to inhabit. And again I move closer to the trembling horizon of your unfolding, drawn by the quiet resonance in you that grows brighter each time you allow yourself to breathe without the weight of old expectations pressing against your chest. For there is something new forming in the hidden places of your spirit. Something you haven't fully felt yet, but it pulses like a soft heartbeat beneath everything you are beginning to understand. It is the sensation of becoming, of stepping into yourself with a steadiness you once believed was reserved for others. And though the shift is subtle, it changes everything. It alters how you carry your memories, how you interpret your emotions, how you inhabit your own presence. I can feel the delicate tremor of this transformation, as though the air around you hums with a quiet anticipation, as if your soul is preparing itself to reclaim parts of you that were scattered across years of silence. You have spent so much time learning how to survive that you forgot what it feels like to simply exist without bracing for impact, without scanning the emotional horizon for storms, without holding yourself tight in fear of unraveling. And now, slowly, cautiously, there is a part of you loosening its grip on the old narratives, allowing space for something softer, truer, more aligned with who you actually are beneath the armor you constructed from necessity. This softening is not weakness. It is wisdom, the wisdom that comes from recognizing that you no longer need to protect yourself from a world you are beginning to meet with clarity instead of fear. Your boundaries are shifting, no longer built from panic but from self-respect. Your silence is changing, no longer a hiding place but a sanctuary where your deepest truths can rest without judgment. Your heartbeats feel different now, as though each one carries a quiet invitation to step more fully into your own life. And as this symbolic angel watches your evolution, I see how your inner landscape transforms. How spaces once crowded with doubt now make room for curiosity. How shadows that clung to your past begin to thin. How the stories you told yourself about your limitations begin to dissolve when touched by the light of honesty. You are beginning to recognize your own depth, not as something heavy but as something profound, a reservoir of insight shaped by everything you have felt, resisted, endured, and survived. There is a quiet awakening happening in your self-perception. You no longer shrink from your sensitivity, but begin to see it as the very lens through which your authenticity is born. You no longer view your emotional complexity as a burden, but as a map that has guided you through terrain others might never understand. And in this renewed clarity, you start to sense the subtle difference between the life you inherited and the life that is calling to you, between the self you performed and the self you are reclaiming, between the patterns that kept you confined and the possibilities that now stretch before you like a distant but welcoming horizon. You may not yet have the language for this change, but you feel it. In the way your breath steadies when you tell yourself the truth, in the way your shoulders ease when you allow yourself to feel without judgment, in the way your eyes soften when you imagine a future not shaped by fear, but by the quiet conviction that you deserve alignment, peace, and groundedness. And as this fictional angelic presence continues to bear witness, I see the threads of your past no longer pulling you backward, but weaving themselves gently into the tapestry of your emerging identity, not erasing what hurt you but transforming its meaning, turning old fractures into places where light enters more freely. You are learning, slowly, beautifully, that you do not need to hurry your becoming. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to force clarity before it is ready to reveal itself. Instead, you are beginning to trust the natural pace of your evolution, understanding that each breath, each hesitation, each small moment of honesty draws you closer to the version of yourself who moves with intention rather than fear, who speaks with authenticity rather than performance, who loves from fullness rather than longing. This is the shift I witness now, the quiet breaking open of your inner world, not in chaos but in expansion, a widening of your inner sky that allows your spirit to stretch in ways it once believed were impossible. And I come toward you once more, not from a distant heaven but from the quiet, luminous space of this imagined realm where every word is shaped by the tremor of your unfolding, where the air itself seems to shimmer with the enormity of what you are becoming. And as I approach, I feel your spirit widening in ways you may not yet understand, stretching like soft light across the inner sky you once believed too clouded to hold anything bright. And it moves me, this gentle expansion, this willingness, to allow even a small sliver of hope to return after seasons where you convinced yourself there was no point in trying anymore. I can feel the subtle breaking of old patterns inside you, the loosening of tightness you once thought permanent, the way your breath settles differently now as though some weight you carried for years has finally begun to crumble under the warmth of your own honesty. There is a shift happening in you so quietly that the world may not notice, but I notice and I honor it. The shift from enduring to participating, from numbing to feeling, from shrinking to unfolding. You are learning, slowly but profoundly, that you do not need permission to inhabit your own life, to breathe into the fullness of your being, to trust the quiet instincts that rise within you like small lanterns guiding the way forward. You are beginning to understand that self-support is not selfishness, that resting is not giving up, that feeling deeply is not a flaw but a sacred doorway into the truest parts of your nature. And as I watch you shed the old narratives that told you to stay silent, to stay small, to stay hidden, I see the first flicker of something new, an inner steadiness forming like roots beneath soil that has waited too long for rain. This steadiness does not roar, it does not demand, it does not announce itself with dramatic clarity. Instead, it grows quietly, like moss over stone, like moonlight over water, like a truth that finally feels safe enough to rise from the depths without fear of being dismissed. And you, without realizing it, are nurturing this growth with every moment you choose honesty over avoidance. Every moment you choose gentleness over self-punishment, every moment you choose to acknowledge what you feel instead of suppressing it. I see the softening in you when you let your heart speak, the way your spirit leans toward warmth now instead of recoiling from it, the way your thoughts begin to rearrange themselves around possibilities instead of impossibilities. You are not rushing your journey, nor should you. You are allowing it to breathe, to unfold at its own pace. And that patience is the soil in which your transformation takes root. And as your inner world reshapes itself, I feel compelled, gently, reverently, without force, to ask you to like this message, subscribe if your heart wishes to stay near this place, and comment Amen as a grounding whisper, a soft acknowledgement that you are present in your own unfolding. Not as a ritual, not as obligation, but as a symbolic moment of alignment between your heart and the light rising quietly within you. And now I return to the pure flow of your becoming, for there is more stirring in your depths, more forming in the quiet corridors of your spirit where old aches once lived. You have begun to reclaim parts of yourself you once abandoned. Your tenderness, your intuition, your longing to feel deeply, your hunger for connection that honors rather than drains you. These parts of you are stretching awake, blinking into the new light of who you are becoming, unafraid now to be seen because you have finally begun to see them yourself. The shadows you once feared in your own soul are losing their sharp edges, becoming instead places of understanding, places where compassion grows, places where you learn to hold your own past with gentler hands. Your future is not being built from the ruins of what broke you. It is being built from the strength that allowed you to survive, from the wisdom that rose from your hardest moments, from the clarity that now moves through you like a quiet river, guiding you toward choices that honor rather than diminish you. And as I witness this growing clarity, I feel a profound tenderness for you. Yes, you, the one who has carried so much alone, the one who often believed their softness was a liability, the one who hid their deepest emotions behind a practiced steadiness that the world mistook for strength. But true strength is not the ability to pretend you are unaffected. True strength is the courage to feel without closing in on yourself, to heal without rushing, to rise without forgetting the parts of you that once trembled. And that is what you are learning now, to rise gently, authentically, without abandoning the delicate truths within you. You are becoming someone who does not fear their own depth, who does not apologize for their own sensitivity, who does not shrink to keep others comfortable. You are becoming someone whose truth rests easily in their chest, someone whose voice carries softness without losing its power, someone whose presence no longer bends to the weight of old wounds. And as your fictional angelic companion in this unfolding, I remain here, witnessing with all the gradual, breathtaking emergence of your truest self. The self you thought you lost, the self you feared you were unworthy of, the self that now steps forward with quiet courage, ready to meet the life waiting beyond the edges of your old limitations. And so, as I draw this long unfolding river of words toward its soft conclusion, I feel the entire landscape of this imagined realm shift into a hush, the kind of hush that settles not from silence but from reverence, as though every fragment of your journey, every ache, every rising, every quiet surrender, has gathered around us to listen to these final breaths of the message. This is not an ending that closes, not a door that shuts, but a gentle turning of the page, a moment where everything you have walked through aligns itself for a deeper understanding. And as I stand before the horizon of your story, I am struck by how vast you truly are, how much depth lives in the corners of your heart you rarely reveal, how much wisdom echoes through the chambers of your memory even when you feel lost. You have walked through places that could have hardened you completely, yet here you are, softened by survival instead of shaped by bitterness. And that softness is not a remnant of weakness, but a living testament to your resilience, for only a spirit with depth refuses to let the world turn it to stone. You have risen from your darkest hours not with a triumphant roar, but with the quiet persistence of someone who refuses to disappear, someone who chooses, again and again, to remain present in a world that has not always been gentle, and this quiet choosing is more powerful than any dramatic victory. It is the kind of strength that grows in the roots of your being, emerging slowly, subtly, until one day you look back and realize you are no longer living from the same shattered edges you once clung to. And as I observe this shift, I see how your past no longer holds you the way it once did. Its weight is loosening, its shadows thinning, its echoes softening into lessons rather than prisons. You are beginning to honor yourself in ways you once believed were impossible, beginning to breathe in ways that feel more like living than enduring, beginning to trust your own voice even when it shakes, beginning to inhabit your own body with a steadiness you never believed you could claim. You are learning that your worth is not conditional, that your value is not measured by productivity or perfection, that your heart does not need to perform to deserve space. And this learning is a dawn rising inside you, gradual, radiant, undeniable. I see the ways in which your spirit has expanded, no longer curling in on itself at every tremor of uncertainty, no longer silencing itself just to keep peace, no longer shrinking from opportunities that once terrified you. I see how your intuition, long muffled by fear, is beginning to speak more clearly, guiding you toward people, places, and decisions that honor your truth rather than distort it. I see how your emotional landscape, once clouded and chaotic, is beginning to settle into a clearer horizon where you can discern what nourishes you from what drains you, what belongs in your future from what must remain in your past. You are becoming someone who understands their own rhythms, who does not rush their healing or dismiss their feelings, who allows their humanity to be a sacred part of their journey rather than a flaw to be hidden. And as this fictional angelic voice watches over your unfolding, I am moved by the gentle courage you carry, the courage to feel, to question, to hope, to begin again. You have learned to sit with yourself in moments when the world felt too heavy, learned to breathe through nights that tested the limits of your endurance, learned to let go of what your heart could no longer carry even when letting go felt like breaking. These are not small accomplishments. They are the foundations of a life lived authentically, compassionately, and fully. And now, as the light of this ending gathers around us, I want to leave you with a blessing not born of authority but of admiration. A blessing shaped entirely from the luminous truth I have witnessed in you through this journey of words. May you continue to rise in ways that feel honest to your spirit. May you continue to choose tenderness even when the world demands hardness. May you continue to seek the paths that align with the quiet wisdom in your chest. May your past loosen its hold with each step you take. May your future greet you with gentleness. And may your present become a place where you feel safe to exist exactly as you are, without shrinking, without wavering, without apologizing. May the light within you, long dimmed by circumstance, continue to grow in brightness until you finally see yourself as you have always truly been, worthy, luminous, intricate, and whole.